So let me welcome everyone now formally on the second day of the conference. My name is Yannick Dupont, CEO of SPARK, and welcome to this new innovative way of conferencing online. With thanks to the folks who've run the world that today. And next week we are going to turn to the impact of the COVID-19 crisis on small and medium enterprise, job creation programming across the world, primarily in the MENA region where we're focusing. But today we have our second day on higher vocational education and the impact. It's an area also close to the heart of SPARK. I think most of you know our scholarship program, which soon, luckily, the 10,000th award for a scholarship. We're progressing with that and also helping universities to move online. And in these lights, and also to get further inspiration, I'm very happy and proud to introduce our keynote speaker of today, Dr. Tariq Al Gurg, who will speak on the impact of the COVID-19 on TVET and higher education and share his ideas on how to best cope with the challenges that are ahead of us. And he represents Dubai Cares, and as many of you do know, they're playing a very key role in helping achieve the Sustainable Development Goal number 4. Which ensures inclusive and quality education for all, especially in difficult regions, in emergencies and protracted crisis. So that's very relevant for today's discussion. Before I hand you the floor, Tariq, for everyone attending, just to note that for each session you need to separately join today. And for those who are interested to do networking, I encourage you to try out the happy hour networking meeting without drinks. But there you can make direct connections to people that are on the conference app. But without further ado, Tariq, the floor is yours, and I'll just disappear for a moment. I'll come back after the talk.
Sure. Thank you, Yannick. Thank you very much. And thank you for giving us this opportunity as well. I'm just going to start by talking about Dubai Cares in general and what we do globally, and then maybe take a deep dive on TVET and the challenges that TVET is facing during and maybe post COVID-19. Dubai Cares was established in 2007 by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, who is the Vice President and Prime Minister of the UAE, and he's also the ruler of Dubai, with one aim, which is to provide children with quality education globally. That was the main aim. That was the main goal at that time. And if we remember that time, we were talking about the MDGs. So it was the MDG 2 that we were tackling. And at that time, there was no quality education. It was about access. It was about developing countries. But His Highness's vision was much bigger than that. And let's not forget that the MDG started in the year 2000, set by the international community and the UN, where in 2005, when the UN had another meeting to see where the goals have reached with the MDGs, the UN announced that MDG 2, which is education, will not be achieved by 2015. And that's what sparked all the alarms and the red flags to His Highness to establish an entity that can help reshape the dialogue globally and bring other philanthropists to help achieve the goal. And then in 2015, of course, the goals changed and it became the SDG 4, and we expanded our mandate. So we work basically into two main pillars when it comes to education. One is to provide access to education, and the other is to provide quality education. And access, where everything from infrastructure to water, sanitation, and hygiene in schools, to building and renovating schools and classrooms, to health in schools. And in health, we focus on deworming, and also in nutrition, there's a big focus on school feeding. That's from the access side. And in quality, we focus on teacher training, curriculum development, literacy and numeracy, adult literacy and numeracy, and early childhood development. We also have a big focus on girls' education, because gender equality is a cross-cutting theme throughout all these programmatic interventions. But we also have pledged at the World Humanitarian Forum in Istanbul back in 2016 that 1/3 of our global annual funding will be towards education and emergencies. So 33% every year goes towards education and emergencies, and the rest would go towards a normal context and normal settings when it comes to education. Now, youth has been something that has been added newly to Dubai Cares, and that was post 2015. So those were during the SDG days. So in 2016, we started taking deep dives towards youth empowerment. And of course, when we're talking about youth empowerment, we have to talk about the entrepreneurial side and of course about the vocational side, and we do both. And then we have also started working towards tertiary education when it comes to development settings. We only work in developing countries, and we partner with implementing partners such as UN agencies or international NGOs to implement these programs, which are aligned with the Ministry of Education's vision and strategy. In a nutshell, that's what we do, and we have a lot of investments towards the research component when it comes to thematic research or maybe programmatic and country-based research on the program itself. And what's the dream? What's the vision? Is to have a nationwide scale-up of our program that we're implementing in these countries as pilots, and hopefully we get all the international donors and helping the government to scale that up by the government taking an adoption to these programs. That's in a nutshell what we do as Dubai Cares. We're running in our 13th year. We're providing education to more than 20 million beneficiaries in 59 developing countries. And if I'm not mistaken, we just launched one early this year before COVID-19. So I think we have touched 60. I'm going to switch now towards the situation and what's happening globally with education. And I'm sure a lot of things that I would be sharing now is related to you, and you might know a lot of these information as well. But because the audience is big, I might as well tap into some numbers to kick off the session. Now, there's 190 countries which have been affected with COVID-19. 190 countries which had school closures. From these 190 countries, over 90% of the students of these countries have been affected. And we're talking about the student population of the world, and 90% more than 90% of those. We're talking about in numbers more than 1.5 billion students who have been affected in this COVID-19 pandemic. We have more than 60 million teachers who are no longer in classrooms. We have an issue. In the MENA region itself, the pandemic has affected almost 100 million children between the ages 5 and 17. There is a global issue. We have to do something about it. Although Yannick and I were talking earlier that there might be some health issues with regards to distance learning as well, but these health issues can be tackled differently as well by having maybe breaks and stops as well. But we can't allow any issues or barriers to stop learning. Learning is the humanity, the salvation of humanity. Learning has and education has let us reach wherever we are today in terms of virtual meetings and seminars, and in terms of health, in terms of infrastructure, technology, and where we have reached. And if we tap into what's happening globally with the immediate economic impact of COVID-19, we are also realizing that young people are facing difficult entry into the labor market. That has been an issue. And the risks are we're going to have a long-term consequence on their careers and earnings. We're talking about the whole globe, which a big portion of that, a big percentage, is dependent on the youth because of their population size, are dependent on vocational skills, are dependent on skills themselves, and also dependent on entrepreneurs. We're talking about SMEs. So putting the whole equation, the whole planet will be affected if we can't get proper solutions to the young people globally. Of course, these challenges are immediate. We're living these challenges. They relate to school, TVET institutions, and company closures. And when you put all of these together, the challenge becomes much, much bigger, because we then have to get solutions. And if we can't provide solutions to get the young people getting into the schooling system, getting into the TVET model, getting into companies which have already closed, we are still facing an issue. So no matter how much we look into solving the issue, we realize that there's another issue tied up to the other issue. We have to change the TVET provision rapidly. And let's not forget, we have a real life example that we've been working on and dealing with all our lives. And now we're moving towards a digital world. And in some cases, it has to be blended with both. But what we have to do, we have to fill in those gaps to provide various platforms for proper delivery. Where today, when it comes to TVET, we're dependent on equipment, tools, tangible things that we touch. We're not used to give training for vocation training without actually touching the equipment and interacting face to face with a human. That element is very, very important. But we have to set our minds into the new equation. We will be lying to ourselves and living in a big denial if we think that we're going to come out of this COVID-19 and we go back to where we were. We will be in a denial. Life will not be the same. It will definitely not be the same. In any category or any segment of business or lifestyle or working life or working career, everything is going to change. We will have to look at things definitely differently. But the provision of TVET, including work-based learning and distance learning in the current context, will also depend on the digital skills on both the trainers and the learners, and the equality issue as well. Each one has different challenges to that, and that is due to the lack of digital literacy as well. So these are the main impact that we have seen that is affecting the TVET sector. Now, with regards to Dubai Cares, I have mentioned that we are supporting the youth. We are implementing a lot of TVET programs around the world. I might tap into one or two depending on time, but I would like to start with one which is I've been talking about it many times because it's in Latin America. It's Ecuador, basically. Not a lot of funding going from the world to Ecuador, to the Latin Americas. The main reason being because they're middle-income countries and emerging countries, and not a lot of funding is going there. It has to be from philanthropists or foundations. And what we did in Ecuador, I'm talking pre-COVID-19. Tourism was booming. You have a huge youth unemployment rate, and you have amongst those, they don't speak the English language. Now, what we did, we partnered with VVOB, our implementing partner in Ecuador. We partnered with the Ministry of Education that has partnered with other ministries, which is the Ministry of Tourism and other ministries as well, to see how we can get these youth who are unemployed, decrease the unemployment rate, and put them in a sector that is booming. And we tied up training sessions and programs to get the youth being embedded within the system of employment and into the system of tourism. So on one hand, we have trained the youth how to become workers in the hospitality sectors. We're talking about receptionists in hotels, room service, concierge service, desk service. That is on one part, but on another part we have the tour guides, and when you're talking about tour guides in Ecuador, you're talking about the Spanishly driven language, where we want to include the English language. So we train them on the English, we train them to become tour operators, and even being registered with the Ministry of Tourism. So having this collaboration between hospitality and tourism mixed together, it has worked. It has been one of our flagships in the world to show that TVET is not only by having handcrafted and things or getting the youth and things that is tangible. It can be done in a different way. What has COVID-19 done to this program? Well, it came to a stop. Would we let it die? Definitely we won't. And our partners on the ground are talking to the ministry, and now we're working on to transforming the trainings into webinars delivered by professionals, actually. So it will become more sustainable. Another way, we're using WhatsApp, and the WhatsApp is being done to coach the teachers, and because it's an easy access, because these are questions and answers, it can be done very quickly. It is important that our partner on the ground also integrates the delivery of the systems and the digital platforms with what the ministry is using, and it has to be adaptable to what the ministry is doing as well. And looking into all of this, and we know that tourism globally has been the most sector which got hit the hardest amongst all the other sectors. Our partner also feels that the potential for sustainable tourism, or we can call it ecotourism, to be a growth area. We can take this as an opportunity, and it could lead to different opportunities for young people currently on the program. So we are evolving with the program. We are not going to keep it on hold. And there's a big thing there which is called innovation, and we can take these models and we can tap them through other countries. I'll give you another quick example. What we're doing very close to our region in the Middle East, Tajikistan. We recently launched our first program actually in Tajikistan, and it's a partnership with Mercy Corps. The program is set to provide life and work readiness skills, as well as vocational training and business development to support 8,000 plus vulnerable young people. Now, the program is facing issues. We're not able to tweak things around as we did with Ecuador. The immediate challenge is that the program is facing the limited access to connectivity. That's a huge issue. The team is exploring, of course, how best to deliver programs remotely in the current context. Of course, learning from Mercy Corps' global experience. So bringing that experience and putting it into the program. The long-term challenge is that many employers prefer to hire people with practical experience. We're talking about they don't believe in remote learning. There are a lot of cultures around the world don't look at distance learning or remote learning or digital learning, the practical way of doing learning. Call them old schoolers maybe. But that has been a challenge, and it makes TVET under COVID-19 particularly challenging in contexts like these in Tajikistan. But for the time being, the team is reviewing and adjusting to training models to reflect the new market situation post-COVID-19. And as Dubai Cares, our priority is to support our partners and to see how we can bring this new reality into context on what we're doing in Tajikistan. These are two examples I mentioned. Of course, we won't be able to also proceed only by having programs globally. We have to have a global advocacy in terms of our reach. We have to be connected with various global mechanisms and platforms so we can pass the message, pass the experience, and link these mechanisms or platforms together with the causes that's there in the world, to have a one approach globally, to have a global plan. It can be, and it will be fragmented, of course, but if we streamline things, it will work better. So one partnership which we have is with UNICEF through Generation Unlimited. Of course, many of you would know what Generation Unlimited is. It was launched in 2018 at the UNGA. Dubai Cares, we committed to $5 million towards three of their main goals, which is portable certification, digital connectivity, and remote opportunities. Of course, the goal is to have young people with particular focus on the greatest danger of being left behind. That's the main aim. So although we're talking about refugees, IDPs, people on the move, but we're also talking about vulnerable youth in different countries who will be neglected from society. Where we come in is through a very unique program that we funded the case study a year ago. And that case study, the research was done, and now it has evolved into a program called GIGA. It's all in caps, GIGA. And the main aim is basically to have internet connectivity in every single school around the world. Hence, that will lead the connectivity to TVET centers as well, because the main goal for Generation Unlimited is youth. It's a youth movement globally. And during the last board meeting that we had last month with Generation Unlimited, there were many ideas that was put forth on how Generation Unlimited can play a role into tweaking some of their existing models or their future ideas, so we can support remote training and skilling for youth around the world. Of course, GIGA is also supported by the International Communication Union, the ITU, and we have many heads of states and key leaders in Africa, South Asia, Central Asia, the Balkans, the Caribbean, also coming on board to be part of the movement. And we hope also for the SPARK community to look into this, and we can be an immediate liaison between you and them. But the more ideas we have, the more we can reshape the dialogue on youth. And now we're talking everything being done remotely. The second is with the World Economic Forum. We have a partnership with them, and we're focusing mainly into how to focus on education skills and future of work to upskill and reskill 15 million youth across 15 countries around the world. That's the main aim. That's the pilot we want to come into. And again, I'm going to mention it again. It's upskilling and reskilling, two different things. And once we have an ecosystem built into that and being practiced into countries and having policies and frameworks and support to get this up and running, and then we tweak some other models that we can have live examples. We're talking about a system change around the world when it comes to upskilling and reskilling. The partnership, of course, with the World Economic Forum gives Dubai Cares a broader platform to shine a light on the continued need to focus on sectors such as TVET, to support opportunities for youth around the world as well. The third example of global advocacy would be also what UNESCO launched at the last UN General Assembly, which is the Qualifications Passport. Now, the main aim for the Qualifications Passport is it tackles the issue that refugees and migrants often face when applying for higher education in the countries that they're being hosted. And because what's happening with them, their skills, whatever skills they have and whatever qualifications, are not being recognized by those countries. And so they go and they seek for higher education, which becomes a hurdle because higher education has a cost as well. So this Qualifications Passport, what will it do? It will actually give a skill-based certification, a global qualifications passport. It's a qualifications passport that will help them having a UN stamp on it that we endorse the qualification of this person, for this person to have an X job. And we are funding two of their pilots, which is one is in Iraq and the other one is in Colombia. The UNESCO also recently launched the Global Coalition for Education for COVID-19 response. We, as Dubai Cares, and me especially, I'm in the advisory board group of the Futures of Education Commission of UNESCO, and the first board meeting that was done in March, after the launch of the commission, I did emphasize on the point that we have to start a global coalition led by the UN to tackle these issues. We have to have digital learning from one side, and that will tackle all things about digital curricula, digital content being available, but at the same time having the infrastructure of internet connectivity and the softwares and the systems on how we can have distance learning. And by end of March, the UNESCO has launched this coalition. They thank Dubai Cares for that on one hand, but we're not going to stop there by putting an idea. We are going to start funding a few pilots with the coalition on that. And just to conclude, if you're going to ask me about how we can rethink TVET when it comes to large-scale disruptions, especially in the MENA region, we should start developing a modern technology infrastructure for TVET institutions. We're talking about internet connectivity, broadcast, software, ICT tools. We have to develop competency-based education curricula with a focus on blending learning, develop remote training programs for teachers to ensure their readiness to engage in digital learning, invest in strategic partnerships with apprenticeship providers. That is also important. Provide and support career guidance and digital skills development opportunities for learners. That's very important. And that starts from early secondary school and onwards. And of course, we have to invest a lot in digital solutions for practical skills development. That's it for me when it comes to TVET. But I just want to take one last minute just to tell you.
They're going to cut the system. Is going to cut us up in 30 seconds.
So we're hosting the largest education summit. It's called Rewired at Expo 2020 Dubai, and it has a large TVET component. We would love SPARK's community to tap into curating the content for TVET and youth.
Okay, great. No, definitely, we just got a few more seconds. We will definitely promote this. And what I very much like and so much appreciate is this very good overview of different networks that are out there. And that's exactly why we invited you for this conference. And I appreciate your keynote. Then I think the real value will be found in exchanging lessons learned and will be to match our resources all together and try to make an impact in what no doubt will be a very rough ride. So thank you very much for your contribution. We are switching to the other session where now 3 university leaders are discussing their drive to go online. And on a personal note, I do hope to see you soon in Dubai once all the air traffic resumes.
Sure, definitely, Anik. Is there a Q&A or is the session ended?
We can take some questions perhaps. Let me just see my cue here from Simon. Oh, no, we ended. No, they have to move to the next one. No.
Okay, thank you, Yana.
This session has been recorded. It will be available for later viewing, and we will collect some of the questions and transmit it to your team.
Sure, Yannick, please, we would love for the SPARK community to be involved into what we're doing with the Global Education Summit, which is Rewired at Expo. And because one of the main pillars is youth and the future skills, basically. So you guys will play a very big part into curating the content with ourselves.
Great. We'd love to be part of it. And I already reviewed some of the ideas, and I think it's brilliant. We'll be fully on board.
Thank you.
All right.
Stay safe. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.